Hello, my name is Hassan Aziz, and welcome to this introduction to PMI's PMP certification program. I've been delivering training programs for the last 10 years. I'm basically an engineer, and I have a 15 years of professional experience primarily in engineering projects. In this introduction, we would understand the importance of project management. We would try to understand the project management framework as defined by Project Management Institute. And we will expand onto the processes, process groups, and knowledge areas which help project managers. We have seen projects overshoot their schedule, time, and not deliver on scope. Why do projects fail? There are a number of reasons, and to nominate a few, they don't align with their organization objectives. Projects typically live within an organization. If the direction of the organization and the projects don't match, the projects are bound to fail. uh, Poor definition of scope, scope creep, unrealistic expectations from the project, lack of leadership involvement and executive sponsorship, inability of personnel to move beyond their conflicts and politics. The, these things contribute to project failure, and collectively we can term them as poor project management. So, how do we make a project successful? So, it should have a project sponsorship at the executive level. It should have its objectives very well defined in a good project charter. It's very important to communicate those objectives to the project team and especially to the project manager. It should have a right mix of team players. The scene making is extremely important. So, making good decisions and managing your risk go hand by hand. Communication, nothing can happen without good communication, and team members are working towards a common goal. So all of them can be summed together to be called as strong project management. Okay, so we were talking about the importance of project management for project success. So, simply put together, project management is to bring an idea to reality. And recently, I was reading a PMI publication that said that only 58% of organizations fully understand the value of project management. So there is a very big opportunity for organizations to realize the value of project management. That can be done by um training personnel with the PMI resource and encouraging them to go for the PMP certification. So, why does it matter that we are learning about project management? The project management has evolved itself into a very interesting and important management area in recent years. So, as I understand that most of us have a technical or specific set of skills, just like someone who's playing an instrument in an orchestra. So, the project manager is synonymous to the conductor in an orchestra who brings the team together and creates music. So, if you want to get things done, you need to get a good blend of business knowledge, people knowledge, knowledge of organizational politics, and an area of technical expertise. Okay, so we have established that project management is extremely important for success of a project. So now we are talking about a key figure, which is a project manager, which is central to the concept of project management. So what does a project manager do? So you have an image in front of you, which is an orchestra, and there is a central figure who is the conductor. So I would understand that each one of the musicians would have their own technical and specific knowledge, but if not put together in a particular sequence and employed in a certain sequence, they cannot make music. And that's where the role of project manager, or in this case, conductor, is extremely important. The project manager's role is basically that of a leader's role. The project manager will employ different types of organization structures, will spend most of his time in communicating with his team and other stakeholders. A project manager will have technical knowledge of the project domain, will employ different techniques to build team. He should have knowledge of how to manage money, should use different techniques like praising and punishing, and he will perform the role of an integrator to guide the project team towards the success of the project. Okay, so Project Management Institute is based out of USA. It's the leading non-for-profit organization, and they started this certification program back in 1984. Why should we choose PMI certification? There are a number of certifications which are available, but what makes PMI so special is that there are about I think 923,000 PMP certified professional all over the globe, and I think it's accepted in more than 200 territories. And PMI was the first to offer a credential specifically for project managers. There's a lot of research and involved in the content that PMI has come up with. So it's definitely globally recognized, and since they are generally accepted practices, so it will give you an edge over your colleagues. There are some other certifications offered by PMI. CAPM is one of them. It's an entry level certification. PMP is the most widely pursued certification from PMP. So to obtain the PMP certification, there are some requisites that we need to understand before going for that. So there are two scenarios. The first one is if you have a bachelor's degree. If you have a bachelor's degree, then you need to obtain 35 hours of project management education. Alongside that is project management experience of 4,500 hours in last 3 years. That roughly translates to 29 hours per week. In the later category, it is high school graduation. If you don't have a bachelor's degree, then you still need to get 35 contact hours and a project management experience of 7,500 hours, which is 5 years within the last 8 years. Okay, let's talk about the timeline. So to start off with the PMP credential, you would have to go to the web page pmi.org. You would have to create a login, put in some details, and you would have to start your application process. So once you started, you would have 90 days to get done with it. Once the application is submitted, PMI typically takes 5 business days, although they sometimes do it earlier than that, but it takes 5 business days online for PMI review. Once the review is done, then you can make your payment. Um, Normally, the application is approved. There is a remote chance that your application can go to audit. They would ask for further details. It sometimes takes 2 to 3 months to get done with that. And once your application is approved, then you are eligible to sit for exam, and you would have to make your payment and schedule your test. So your exam eligibility is for a year, and you can schedule a test up to 3 times. Filling out the PMP application will take a couple of days, especially for those who are not familiar with the requirements. I suggest you read the guideline on PMI's webpage. So you will have to create a login on PMI's webpage, fill out your details, your education details, contact details, report your PDUs, and report your project management hours. Normally, application gets through within a week's time.
5 working days, 5 to 7 work days, and very occasionally, very occasionally, it is sent to an audit. And in an audit, you will have to present some substantiation, which is really not a big deal. So, sooner you start your application, sooner you'll be able to sit in your exam. In the exam, there will be a total of 200 questions, out of which 175 are scored, 25 are pre-test questions, which are typically research kind of question, and PMI is trying to gauge what answers applicants come up with.
The passing score is quite manageable. It is 61%. Okay, so most of questions will be from execution. Planning and monitoring control will contribute to 24 and 25% respectively. Initiating will have 13%, and closing will have the least part at 7%. So you should not remember everything. I mean, that's physically impossible for you to remember it anyway. It's not a test of your memory. So, being an engineer, I would say that mathematical questions involving formulas and value, they should be quite easy. And the major part of these questions come from the processes. So these are ITTOs, which is input, tool, technique, and outputs. Okay, so what should you expect in the exam? There are multiple choice questions, and they are based off scenarios. These are situational questions. You will see questions with more than two right answers. So it gets a little tricky. So it's really important to understand the input, tool, technique, and outputs of each process, and where does it fit in the overall framework of project management. There will be questions with extra information that you don't need to make a decision, out of the blue questions, and questions where understanding is extremely important. And obviously, there are pretest questions which are 35% of the exam but are not marked. So here is PMI salary survey from 7th edition. You can see that 30,000 professionals around the globe participated in that, and in UAE, there was a 71% reported increase in salary once PMI certification was achieved. Our Bible for this course would be the PMBOK 6th edition. It is generally recognized as a good practice. Generally recognized means the knowledge and practices described are applicable to most projects most of the time, and good practice means there is a general agreement that the application of these skills, tools, and techniques can enhance the chances of success over a wide range of projects. So, we are talking about generally accepted good practices which are developed by industry experts as a guide to project management. So the question arises, should we apply the knowledge uniformly over every project? We will talk about a very important process in PMBOK. It's called tailoring. So tailoring allows the project manager to tailor the processes employed in that project to its needs. So obviously, a large scale project will have different needs than a small scale project. An IT project will have different needs than construction project.
The Bible for our PMP course is the PMBOK 6th edition. We will consider the first part of this book. And this first part, we have three subcategories. The first is the framework, in which there's chapter 1 and 2. Then we have a recent addition in the book, chapter 3, which is a role of project manager. And lastly, chapter 4 to 13 are the project management knowledge area. Let's get started with it.